Today is officially World Mental Health Day, and I guess it's a chance to shine a light on good mental health, on good habits to adopt, and how to recognise and support loved ones who may be more susceptible to poor mental health. Joining us now on BBC Radio Cambridgeshire is Managing Director Ian Lintott, care home provider with Visiting Angels, basically to share with us some tips on positive mental health during the pandemic. Good morning, Ian.
Good morning, Kev. Good morning, Cambridgeshire.
Now, this pandemic, Ian, has hit everybody very hard, hasn't it? But especially those on their own.
Yes, absolutely. Loneliness is increasing, and as we teeter on the edge of going back into another lockdown and the winter months ahead, we've got to be very mindful of those people living in our communities across Cambridgeshire who are living alone. Obviously, loneliness can have a dramatic impact on mental health and people's well-being, but there's lots of support that's out there, and Visiting Angels want to tell people, exactly what they can do to stay positive with the months ahead.
I've had a look on your website and I had a little look at the work that Visiting Angels does, and it's incredibly supportive and incredibly positive. I wanted to ask a quick question, Ian, about the signs of loneliness, because sometimes I'm guessing they're kind of invisible. You think your loved ones or close friends are okay, but actually they're not okay, and maybe they're lonely and actually need help, but the signs aren't always instant.
You're absolutely right, Kev. Loneliness affects people in different ways. It's important to understand that isolation often leads to other problems too, as you say, depression, anxiety, mood swings, agitation, frustration, and people withdrawing into themselves. Loneliness can cause a lack of motivation. So your loved ones may lose interest in some of the most basic daily tasks. At Visiting Angels would take the approach of it's not just about personal care, it's always about companionship as well. It is about, getting to know the individual client, and we at Visiting Angels, we train our people to really thoroughly get to know the clients that we're calling upon so that we can look after their mental health as well as their physical health.
Yeah, and there is a difference between the two, isn't there? Clear difference. But physical contact is something that I see as really important. But the pandemic, the lockdown especially, meant that a lot of us didn't have anywhere near the physical contact that we maybe needed with others.
No, that's absolutely right. Physical contact is important, and again, at Visiting Angels, we encourage our carers and our clients to sit down and have meals together. I think regular meal times is that sort of contact. It's a sort of basic human ritual, and what you find is that a lot of lonely people eat meals alone, and that's something that we do try to tackle head on. So if it is possible, having a visit and physical contact is important, and my first tip of the three that I've got for you today is that, you can follow the government guidance on making a support bubble. So if there's a single adult living alone in your community, you can actually add them to your bubble. There's great government advice on websites for doing that. So you can adopt an older person in your community.
Okay, that's a really good tip, and maybe something for someone to think about. What are your other two tips, Ian?
So if you can't make physical contact, obviously loved ones live far away these days. You can actually use phone calls, Skype, Zoom, FaceTime. There's lots of apps out there now that I would encourage everybody to use. And again, at Visiting Angels, what we do is we signpost our clients to these. So we have example of using a Snapchat functionality that allows my son, rather than being on a FaceTime call for 5 minutes, he's actually on there for 40 to 45 minutes because he's watching his nana talking to him while she's got a sleeping cat on his head. So there's, it's about making it fun. The approach is seeing that people are individuals. It's about listening to what they need rather than prescribing things. So that works for my nana and my son, but it may not work for everybody. So it's about getting to know them as individuals, what they require themselves, and then looking about what's available in the community. There's some great support groups out there, particularly across Cambridgeshire, fantastic charities, volunteer groups, community supporters, all there ready to help. But it's about signposting. It's about raising awareness and also providing access to those activities that are really key.
Good to talk to you, Ian. Thank you very much for that. Some really interesting tips and advice to try and overcome loneliness. And I guess it's really important to ask questions about your loved one's daily activities. Talk to them about what they're doing and how they're spending their time, and try and recognise the signs, of course, before they maybe escalate. And I want to thank Ian for coming on the show today. And if you want to get more information, visiting-angels.co.uk, you can find out all about the work that Ian's company does. The time is